Hey, my name is Chad Lanier, and for my final project, I chose to do a video documentary that followed the stories of three white Republican women that are from South Georgia. In 1954, the Supreme Court passed Brown versus Board of Education. This case basically stated that all segregated schools are unconstitutional. In my documentary, you will hear the stories of three different women. One was in the school systems, one was a mother, and one was a professor. In Bullitt County, where two of the stories take place, integrated schools did not start coming around until 1971. In Chatham County, where one of the stories takes place, integrated schools did not come around until 1970. In my documentary, you would hear the responses from these three women, but you will notice that all the questions are worded kind of the same. So enjoy.
My name is Deborah Bars, and I was born in Statesboro, Georgia. Was raised fairly simple. My parents owned a local business and all, and was very, raised pretty simple. I went, all to school. We started out at Brooklet Elementary is where I started out at school, and then whenever my parents owned that business, we were in Statesboro, so we moved to the Statesboro schools. That's when I came to Sally Z was the first school that I went to, and then coming on up, went through all the schools here. I was always in the public school, not in any private school or anything.
Where were you when you first saw integration in the school system?
Yeah, I think, in thinking back, I was probably around 12 or 13. I was thinking around the 6th grade. For me, that would have been at Northside School. That was the first year that school opened, and that was when there may have been a few, maybe the year before that, but I can't really recall that much. But I noticed it more. I guess it would be at Northside School, which was around. That would have been the 6th grade, and that was the first year at that school.
Do you remember your first time seeing a black student in the school, in a classroom or anything? Do you remember your reaction, or was it odd at first?
Well, I think it was odd at first, just because it was just something you'd never seen, and so you just, why all of a sudden, all these years you've come up through school, and then all of a sudden, they're here. And why are they here? And where'd they come from? And why all of a sudden, you do start seeing them and all.
Mm-hmm. And then, did you witness any bullying because somebody was different race? Mainly, segregation still happening even though times were integrated at the time.
Well, I feel like you're gonna always see some. I was always kind of had my little group of friends, and I guess you kind of just stayed with your friends and didn't, and at that point you didn't. I don't think you really know how you should feel or whatever kind of thing. And I think it wasn't something. I don't know if it was a thing of bullying, but I think it was more of a thing you stayed to yourself because you didn't know how they were going to be. And I think that's kind of what we did. We just kind of stayed with our little group of friends and just didn't mingle with that because you just didn't know. So I think, that's the main thing. You kind of stayed within yourself and not with, them or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then what was one major change that you would see in the classroom, or a change from teachers? Did they change the way they taught? Did some students have to leave the room? Stuff like that.
To me, I kind of felt like we maybe went to a little lower sense of learning, almost like being held back a little bit. I think I'm not saying that they're stupid, but there's people that are intelligent, black or white. But I just felt like we kind of we had to slow down the process a little bit, went a little slower, that kind of stuff, and just in the whole process of us weeding all together and doing all that. So I think that's the main thing, is just kind of lowering our standards of where we were how we were progressing.
Okay. And then now I want you to say that you are a mother. You've been married for blank years. You have children, grandchildren, and then like say like what you do now type of thing.
Okay. So, I've been married several times now, but I have two grown daughters, and I have three grandchildren, two granddaughters and a grandson. And to me, what I see now going on that I guess bothers me more than anything else, and is, when we came up, because we weren't with a lot of blacks, I feel like this generation coming up now thinks it's okay. Anything's okay. That's my problem for me at my age. It wasn't okay for us to do that when we were growing up. You didn't play with blacks. They were niggers. I mean, you didn't play with them, and you weren't raised to do that. And for me, that's my biggest problem now with these children is everything's acceptable. It doesn't matter what it is. Y'all can hang out with them. You can associate with them. And I've had one instance with my granddaughter at Statesboro High School with a guy trying to mess with her. And, we went through that whole process, which drives me crazy. But she didn't see as much wrong with it as we did. And we've gone through a lot getting her kind of through that process is because that's not the right thing to do for us. It may be right. I mean, when people do it all the time, and that's okay, but it's not right for us.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then you can go ahead and then I thought of a good ending one on the way here. Just basically just say like as time have gone by, like I think your answer is going to be yes, obviously, but has your perspective on like a black person changed? And it's probably going to be probably yes, because they're not as like unschooled, and like there's obviously like we had a black president. So just like have you seen a progression of people of African American descent like going through this hard time and like doing something more successful later on in life?
Well, I think, like I said, black or white, people are different. I feel like, and I probably shouldn't feel this way, but I do feel that a lot of times the more blacks you get involved in whatever it is, it tends to go downhill. I think I've seen it in restaurants, seen it in businesses, I've seen it in a lot of things, and the more you get involved in it, the worse it gets. And like I said, maybe I shouldn't feel that way, but that's just the way I was raised, and that's the way I feel. I mean, I think there are some blacks that have been successful and can be successful, but I don't. For the most part, I don't see it.
Jawan Harper. I was born in 1938. I have 2 marriages. I have 2 sets of children. I have 1 son. I have 2 stepdaughters. I have 6 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. I was raised in an environment with the blacks. They were part of my life, my childhood. And I have had a great family and a great life.
Awesome. Where were you when integration of the public school system started?
I lived in Savannah, Georgia. I lived there all my life. I did my occupation there. I was an accountant. And I raised my son for 10 years. I was divorced, and then I remarried. My son and my stepdaughter are 1 year apart. And one went to private school and one went to public school. My son went to public school. My stepdaughter went to private school. 12 years she went to private school. My son was in grammar school when they integrated, but he really didn't see integration in grammar school because we were in a position that there was no integration in that school. But when he started to middle school, this is when we were inducted into integration, and the pitfalls of what went on during his middle school started there.